Hey guys, welcome to another episode of KLF Deep Dive. I'm here with Elizabeth Molson, who has been kind enough to come here 3 times. At that point, we think of them as gluttons for punishment. So at this point, she is just a glutton for punishment. But we appreciate you being here. Before you get started, Elizabeth, you want to tell us about yourself?
Yes, thank you so much. I am a Medtech commercial executive. I've been in the industry for over 15 years, leading sales marketing teams. And yeah, today we're going to talk about all kinds of things commercial, maybe some conference stuff, and we're going to get into what really works in the industry and what doesn't.
So before we get started, because she's tried not to do this, I'm gonna do it. Elizabeth does have her own company called Exec Echo. And what does Exec Echo do, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so we do two things. One, we are a brand agency, and so we help with all commercial things, specializing in medtech. All of us have deep expertise in devices, diagnostics, biopharma, things like that, CDMO, CRO. We also do executive personal branding because medtech is such a space that you can't just hire a ghostwriter. You need someone who understands the science, the technology, what you can and can't say in our industry. So for those executives who are interested in building a presence on LinkedIn that is both compliant and interesting, we help them with that behind the scenes.
So you say this really interesting thing, and I know we're not supposed to get distracted, but here I am already. You talk about the fact that you do personal branding. I was just on a website that says, do not use AI to design your shots for visuals for your website. As an executive as someone who does personal branding, is that true, or is AI okay?
Right now, for those who are living and breathing it, we can see AI a mile away. So use it with caution. If AI is writing your post, it's going to say something like, it's not about green, it's about red, right? There's a rhythm to AI right now that is centralizing content to the mean. So the way I use AI, I will take a photo of me, I will upload it to Nano Banana, and I will have it remove this big wrinkle that you can't see right now across my forehead. And that's all I will use it for. Because I'm a little bit vain that way. If I'm doing copy, I will write the copy, I will let it give me ideas, and then I make sure I write it again. So it doesn't sound like it came out of a machine. It sounds like something I would say on this podcast, which is why I love doing these podcasts, because then I get the verbiage of how I speak, how I engage, what we talk about. It's real. So if you're using AI to defer your thinking and your output, you're going to be visibly seen as doing that shortcut. If you know how to use it to help you with something very specific in your outcome, it can be a really great tool.
So you would say for writing, I totally feel you. Like it does have that rhythm. It does give that fake AI feel. Do you feel the same thing about the actual photographs, though?
So I think photographs are going to be based on realism. I think the industry is going to lean very hard into these avatars, into content that is easy to execute because it's cheap. And when marketing is treated as a production line, it doesn't connect with people. It doesn't. And I really see the whole industry going to these cheap solutions for those reasons, and then trying to find people who are authentic. So I'm leaning into that one photo at the airport of me looking super tired. I just posted it as is because right now is the era where people are building authenticity and trust. And if they trust you now, as the whole industry evolves around video being fake, you can't trust video anymore. It's going to be those people that you trusted in the past couple of years that you're still going to continue to trust in the next couple of years.
So that speaks to the conferences. And I'm wondering, when you're doing these conferences, I see 2 sets of people who are sort of posting. You'll get the one set that are shiny, bubbly, happy. And this is the greatest conference that's ever happened. I'm going to be so excited to be there. And you should come check out my booth. You get the second one, and they're the ones who are taking pictures of, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted, I'm at conference number 19. Here's a picture of me half asleep on my flight. Don't ask me how I took the picture, because that would sort of destroy the illusion that I'm taking my own picture of me looking exhausted. But that's the visual. So in a world where, as you say, authenticity and trust is important, how do you create that authenticity and trust when you're taking curated pictures that are anything but?
Great question. And this is where years of experience will share. I'll share with you, right? That this conference is amazing. Come check out our booth that every company page posts. We all scroll past that. The minute we understand what that is, we scroll past it. I'm not right. The second thing is, I'm exhausted. This is horrible, is clickbait. And our brains click into that. Like, oh, this is attention seeking, or this is building on a trend that we've seen 1,000 times. We scroll past that. So what is resonating with authenticity is real, but we keep forgetting that you have to be interesting, right? Interesting. So if I'm posting a photo of me exhausted on a flight, I want to say, but I just met this amazing person, and this is a conversation we had, and here's the insight that I think helped me and will be interesting to you. Or here's the story about this amazing technology. Or here's an insight that I remembered I learned about in business school a few hundred years ago that now makes more sense to me. So we keep forgetting the interesting part. And the reason is because that's the hard part. And that's what differentiates the top 10%, the people who do the hard work.
So what you're really saying, Elizabeth, is you're saying that we're now all content creators. If you're not on there creating content, you don't exist, for lack of a better term. First of all, do you agree with that statement?
And if you're on there creating boring content, you don't exist.
Right.
Or if you're just reposting your company page, you're only going to be known as having worked for that company, not for who you are and what value you bring.
And I guess that's the next set of questions I have about conferences, because you and I were discussing this a little bit earlier. What I find fascinating is when we do conferences, there'd be, I don't know, 1,000 people in the company. Somehow I got to go to like nine conferences, and there were people going, I haven't been to one. And I go, no, I'm invited to speak at every single one of the conferences I'm going to. You haven't asked to speak at any of them. A conference is not an opportunity for you to go out. It's a conference. It's an opportunity for the company to develop more business. So the reason I ask this question is, what is the point of a conference? Is it an opportunity to personal brand? And what I mean by that is, I'm looking for a new job. Maybe if I go to this conference, I'll meet my next employer. Or is it, I'm here representing the company? Or is it, I'm here representing the company, but really I'm here to have a great time because it's in Miami and I like being in Miami? How do you help set that expectation of why you're at the conference? Because I'm going to spoil this because we haven't spoken about this in a few days. You were like, I don't let everyone go to conferences. Like, only specific people are allowed to go. So you tell us from your experience, what is the right point of the attendees?
So I'm going to segue. So go on a little journey with me, if you will, please. The budget lives in marketing, and it shouldn't. The budget should live in sales. So if you have a $4 million marketing budget and $1 million of it is conferences, the company is seeing $4 million of marketing, but it's really less than 3 by the time you pay for the sales force and the infrastructure and the overhead. So marketing is over-indexed in spend and then expected to give a return on that when $1 million of that is conferences. And if marketing is not going to conferences, it's a sales event that needs to be in the sales budget. So that's my biggest takeaway. If you have new hire HR packets in your marketing budget, those are amazing, but that's then revenue that you're accountable to get back, even though it's going to HR employees. Great things. So first and foremost with conferences, marketing loved having the big budget without realizing what that means in the boardroom and to the board on return on investment. So first I would say clean up your budget. Marketing, conferences, and the headcount to manage conferences is a sales activity. Now, when they go, who gets to go? All of the things you said are the history of conferences. I've done really well. I get a vacation in Miami. I'm going to hang out. We're going to go to the club. We're going to have a great time. Or I'm going to go and meet people and network, whether I'm networking for the business or networking for my next career move. It's still, I'm going to go there with the intent to network and meet people. My take is all of those are obsolete by events. Those are reasons we used to go to conferences. In this day and age, you only get to go to a conference if you have 4 or more meetings scheduled each day. Conferences are about taking things offline and bringing them in real life, in person. Sales is relationship. So if you're going to go to the conference and just hang around in the booth and hope you meet someone, you don't get to go unless you're assigned booth duty for 4 hours a day. Because there does have to be somebody there to greet people and get information and be that person who's available. If not, you don't get to go. Well, I need my, manufacturing site lead to go to have conversations, right? Well, great. If they're a part of a critical meeting, then they can go. If they need to be in that meeting, then you need to talk about your training program with your BD rep and why you need the head of manufacturing to be in that meeting, right? So you can see all of these symptoms come into who gets to go. Well, I need my R&D people to go to explain the technology. That's an insight on what your business could do better. But the way I look at it is inside sales and business development have the 6 weeks before the conference to reach out to their network, find out who's interested in meeting, and schedule those meetings. The size of the booth depends on whether you're having meetings in the booth or not. And if you don't have enough meetings, you don't go. If you only have 2 meetings the whole conference, another BD rep takes those, or your vice president of sales takes those for you.
Wow. So that's terrifying though, right? So you're basically saying earn your keep. You're saying, so it's not an opportunity to reward people for a good quarter or a good, I don't know, you've performed well this year. That's used to be one of those goals at one point. That's not where we are anymore. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I agree. It's not a bonus, right? It's business. If you want to give a bonus, give a bonus. If you want to give a vacation, give a vacation, right? But don't tie the two together as if one justifies the other. And that has happened a lot because it sat in somebody else's budget. It's super easy for sales to spend marketing's money, right? Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, there was a couple of conferences. DCAT's a big conference. CPHI Worldwide is huge. These were $100,000 budgets. 30 plus sales reps, plus all of their travel expenses, plus a very expensive booth, right? Couple $100,000 would sit in the marketing budget for that event alone. And at the end of the day, marketing didn't have decision-making rights. Sales did. So that needs to go in the sales budget. Do you send 32 people to Frankfurt or Italy or wherever CPHI Worldwide is this year? Or do you take that money and hire another rep? Or do you have them go on site to different locations to visit clients on their own site? Like, what do you do with that money? That's a sales trade-off decision hidden in the marketing budget. And then when marketing's accountable to the T, like I am, and I should be, and I'm fine with that, I'm then going to have the same accountability of that budget to sales.
So let's what you're thinking, like, appropriately so, is as a chief commercial officer, and you're kind of going, if you are coming, show me the ROI. So in which case, sorry, can you hear me?
You froze there for a second. Can you repeat that for me, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on with my internet connection. It's a hard connection. But my question then is, everyone is there to then advance the business. How do you prep for going to a conference? How do you, is it every person, like, can someone who is head of manufacturing somehow get 4 meetings at the conference and go, I have 4 meetings a day, Elizabeth, I should be on that list? Or is it only people in sales? Or is it people in sales and marketing and Elizabeth gets to choose? How does that work?
Who needs to be in the meeting, right? So for CDMO, If you're having a late state negotiation about a proposal that's been sent out about picking manufacturing sites and timelines, then yes, I can see a site manager being there and or a program leader who's going to do the everyday accountability of that program. Absolutely, they could be there, right? Is that the right place for that meeting? Then becomes my follow-on question, right? Does it make sense to have that meeting in Orlando, Florida at the conference, or does it make sense to invite them to the site? And that's why it's so important to have it as a sales trade-off conversation, right? Well, it's convenient. They're going to be at the meeting they're going to be at the conference anyway. So we'll just meet and chat and hang out. That's relationship building. I'm all for that, but you probably don't need 3 very expensive people to fly in to have a relationship building meeting if they're going to come visit the site in 2 weeks later. So it's just intellectually saying, hey, what makes sense for the business? What's the fiscally responsible thing to do here? I think anybody can go to a conference, right? I have a lot of people who are like, well, I want to go to a conference. How do I go? And the best thing I say is get on a panel. If you want to go to the conference, get on a panel, right? Go be a speaker, because then you're going to go, right? You're going to earn your keep because you're going to give some and you're going to get some. For people who are early in their career, I would like to go to this conference just to sit in on all of the amazing seminars that are going to happen. Great. If your learning development budget from your department pays for that, great, do it. But it's not coming out of the marketing budget.
Right.
So I don't care who goes. I'm open to anybody. But you better explain why.
Right. Now, do you train people before they go?
Absolutely.
What does that training look like?
So a lot of times people will want to drop the event manager to stand at the booth, to be the person at reception, right? Wherever that booth is that people can come and engage. And I have the event manager there to run logistics, right? The number of Wi-Fi passwords, the power strip just went out. We need more this or that, the water, coffee thing, whatever. There's logistics that happen with these conferences. That's event management. A hotel room, somebody got, lost at the airport. The person who mans the booth has to be somebody who is fluent across the business. And BD reps are often, well, why would I man a booth? That's a marketing manager job. It's not. If you want to have an intellectual conversation and screen whether they're a qualified lead, you don't put it through the event manager, who then sends it to inside sales, who then sends them an email that either gets ignored or doesn't get ignored. And then it may or may not become a conversion. Like, have the conversation up front. Have the right person greet. Right? If it doesn't qualify, great. If it does, you can have that more meaningful conversation right away. So you have your 4 meetings a day, and then, booth duty is tough on your feet. So you have like an hour and a half of booth duty and then another hour and a half of booth duty. And those are the people you go. And quite candidly, you can almost cut your expenses in half by having a schedule that says you can speak to the business, or the people who are on site. And then here are your meetings, and you plan it to the 9s. And then these are what you talk about. This is how you handle people. Now, oftentimes, right, somebody will come up and say, hey, I want to talk to the chief marketing officer, the chief commercial officer. I'm not available. I'm in a meeting or I'm doing something else. Take a business card. Then I get my stack at the end of the night, and then we just have stacks. So I have little bins of each of the business units. And then every night that person, somebody follows up. So it's planned completely. It's not happenstance. It's not we're going to show up and wander around and have some nice dinners and hope something happens. That used to be the way it worked. But now in the digital age, you're behind the ball if you don't go in with a plan. It's like JPM for BD reps.
That's so interesting, because I'll be honest, I go to conferences and I just sort of hope and pray shit will happen. And that's
how's that work?
And I know I'm doing it wrong. That's the worst.
Is it working for you?
I can count on one hand the number of people I've gotten off of conferences because I go, this is useless. And I'm not paying for this because I don't see the value. And what you're really saying is you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong.
What I love is I was talking to a friend of mine, a client of mine actually, and she had gone out there and she'd made a list of all of the after parties, all of the yoga sessions in the morning, the coffee hours that people are having. And she's like, I'm just going to give this list away. I was like, wait, why don't you just go say, here are the people who are going to be at these events. I've already spoken to them. You're in this business. I think there are going to be 3 people at this conference, at this event who might be interesting to you. 3 people here. and charge for not the list, but for the introductions.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me go, how do I make my 3 days of this conference a lot more productive is by someone planning that out for me. And what you're telling me is in a larger company like the ones you usually work at, you are doing exactly that. People are not going in there and hoping for serendipity. They're hoping they know who they're going to meet.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a busier day than being at home and working. This is a planned out day plus the serendipity conversations, and they'll hopefully lead to more stuff later on. What I did find interesting, though, is you were talking about how to talk to people and the like. Do you have a sales and legal and compliance conversation? Like, this is what you are allowed to say, what you aren't allowed to say, so that you don't have that medical legal or medical sales sort of crossover, which does happen, which gets cited very often by the FDA.
Right, which is why they're like, well, marketing person should have these initial conversations. No way, man. It has to be a salesperson, someone who is trained in what they can and can't say and knows if they don't know, it's okay to take a business card and have the right person get back to them. Right? That's not marketing. That's not there every day. It's a sales activity. And so you're absolutely right. Who's in the booth, who's allowed to kind of have these conversations, and the training up front absolutely happens. So we do have, as we roll out, right, we have, here's what the plan is, here's what the schedule is. Inside sales is going to work on getting these meetings scheduled. You're going to work on getting these meeting schedules. I share the booth design. And so let's talk a minute about booth design. Booth design used to be about graphics and the check-in place and the coffee. Booth design now is how many meeting rooms do you need? And do we need to pay extra for privacy insulation for all the noise?
Oh.
Right? So the booths I've made recently have meeting rooms. So you see the beautiful graphic, like the welcome area, the coffee station, the beautiful graphic, if there's little croissants. But what that graphic is hiding is that's a meeting room. Sometimes, CPHI, I had something like 4 meeting rooms in our booth space, and they were jammed. And then I would have a couple coffee tables that were grab at will. And then I would train people, you're not allowed to sit there longer than 20 minutes. Like, you can't just sit there and camp at one of our open tables. Those are designed for those impromptu, hey, it's great to see you. Haven't seen you in a couple of years. Let's sit down and catch up for a couple minutes, right? And so the booth design is not about advertising and branding, right? There's 10,000 booths and they're all going to say the same thing. Right? It's about the conversations. It's about the meetings. It's about taking things offline and bringing them into real life. And so if your booth is all about the graphic and you're spending a lot of money on whether your tagline is in blue font or 12 font, you're missing the point.
Right. Now, those conversations I remember used to be happening in back offices, in other hotel rooms. You'd hear about these rooms for like JPM and DCAT and stuff, where other hotels would be completely booked just to have these meetings. Is the new trend to have them at the conference itself?
It's a balance, right? It depends on the meeting. So I still have those secret meeting rooms. Those are your executive meetings. Those are your final negotiation meetings. Those are meetings that, you need to more privacy. Right? They're usually not business development meetings, right? Uh-huh. So yes, we have those as well. Those are not going to be in the booth, but it's also pretty easy to have a couple executives slide into a booth in a meeting room in the booth, right? They're not going to see that. And then if you pay to have the inside of your booth more soundproofed, it's a little bit of way that if you need to have an in-depth conversation, you can. It gives that optionality. So rethinking what a conference is and why you go and what you're trying to get out of it completely from what we did even 10 years ago is what's going to change how you manage your investment, what you expect to get done, what the roles are for marketing, for inside sales, for BD reps, for executives. And then behind the scenes, I kind of had alluded that I went, right? Why would I go? Because I'm doing media. So I'm meeting with all of the agencies. I'm meeting with all of the media. I'm meeting with my peer counterparts. So you better believe I know who they are, my competitors, and we have appropriate conversations just to say, hey, what's going on? Just like the executives meet with each other and kind of have a feel for what's going on in the industry. I am also doing interviews. I am doing sound bites. I'm doing podcasts. I'm doing filming so that we have content for what we're doing. I'm collecting exciting conversations and what is actually happening in the industry, what's trending, what do people care about? So it goes back to how we started this. What's interesting, not just what's promotional.
So, okay, so we've had this, I mean, there are all these compliance things that I'm thinking about, things like, should medical affairs be at that booth? Should they be doing something different? Should they have their own booth, for example, is a big question that I get asked often enough. But keeping those questions off the table for the second, I'm trying to live through the life cycle of a conference. We've kind of planned them, we've trained them, we've decided who's going to be there. At the booth itself, I'm learning the difference between the $125 I'm going to put a sheet over a table and the $200,000 booth with all the bells and whistles, and why those two are there and what you're doing differently with each one. And then finally, the conference is over. How do you get the greatest value of all the meetings you had post-conference? What is that? During the conference at night, what's happening, and after the conference, what's happening, so that you get the greatest value out of all the conferences you're going to?
And this goes into process, right? So conferences are busy, and you can't always, especially with the evening activities, get to your follow-up within 24, which everyone likes to do. So every rep needs to have a plan of how are you going to follow up on the scheduled meetings you have. How are you going to follow up to your stack of cards, right? And you need to just have a plan for that. Does it have to be within 24 hours? Absolutely not. You need to have your follow-up as soon as you can after the conference, right? It depends on whether go home day is Friday or go home day is Wednesday. Each one of those have a timeline that's different. And then you decide, what does the BD rep keep for the follow-on 10 days after, once people dig out from being at the conference? And then what goes to inside sales for follow-up? And marketing has all of their opt-in that they can automate follow-up with all their email and their nurturing and their quality content campaigns. So all of that is mapped out way before you even go to the conference. So everyone who's there knows what their roles and responsibilities are. I was fortunate enough in a couple of roles to have inside sales. And so often we would kick a lot of this stuff to inside sales. Like, the people on site are swamped. Here, inside sales, can you cover for me? And so we would have a real time, some people would do voice to text, some people would just like real time shoot an email, because we always paid for Wi-Fi in the booth. And then whatever that style was that worked, and whatever resources your company has on who can follow up and how to follow up. All that's mapped out a good 8 weeks, 10 weeks in advance.
Wow. See, the funny part is, for the people who are going and speaking at these conferences, none of this stuff shows. You just sort of see people standing in booths going, how is there any ROI on this? And I still don't fully understand how there's ROI, but what you're really saying is, it's never been about what happens at the conference. All the work's done up front. You're just closing deals at the conference. You're giving them a face to look at and go, you're a real person I can do real work with. Or you're not, and I'm probably going to eliminate you off my list, because turns out you're just an ass, and I don't want to deal with asses.
Or it's not a fit. What I thought you could deliver isn't quite my expectations and my need right now. This is going to slot until later. There's also a component we haven't talked about that I do at conferences as an executive, is support our speakers, right? So don't go to a conference if you don't have a speaker, right? Always try to have a speaker.
Oh.
Always try to have a speaker. If it's worth spending more than, I don't know, pick your threshold. I would say if you're spending $100,000 or more, you better have a speaker at that event. Because that then surround sounds it, right? So then I'm there as well, supporting the speaker or the speakers, right? Most of the time I would have a couple if you're in a big event like CPHI Worldwide or CPHI, whatever. And then we would support all of that. And so you would have a couple of people standing around who would be speakers, who would be there for a couple of days for credibility, introduce people, kind of show your brand a little bit. And so that's an activity that's really important that some people miss. They're like, well, we're going to go to this conference. We go every year. Okay, well, you know, what are you doing to make the most of that? And on one hand, they have no speakers because they're busy. And on the other hand, I've had somebody who went to a conference for 5 years in a row and gave the exact same presentation every year. And I was like, wow, that's amazing, but a little bit of a miss. Like, let's switch out speakers. Let's switch out content. But all of it comes down to, with so many things, whether it's marketing, whether it's finance, whether it's conferences, whether it's sales, who's willing to do the work that's going to make a difference? We all get busy, and so we just show up to these conferences. And as you had said earlier, we hope for serendipity. But we know that when you go in with a plan, you're going to have a better chance of getting the outcome you want. But it takes resources to do that. And if you don't have the infrastructure, you don't have a marketing event, an event person, you don't have inside sales, and all this falls on the business development rep, there's no way they're going to be able to implement all this.
So if let's say you are a really well-built organization that is doing all these amazing things, you don't have a speaker. Do you ever adopt a speaker, for lack of a better term? So you go get a fancy keynote speaker who's going to draw the crowd in, and then you get to have him at the booth or have her at the booth. Is that a thing, or is it always best to have someone from inside your company?
It's a thing.
Oh,
so
did not know that actually.
Some people will do that, right? They will have somebody really interesting in their booth, and to your point, legal, media trained, all of those requirements and compliance, right, with that speaker, and then broadly invite everybody to come hear that and hope they get a crowd. They'll serve wine, right? Usually it's between like 5 and 6 when the conference is officially closed, but then they have this extra happy hour that the conference venue sometimes allows, depending on the conference. What I recommend right now is exclusive invite-only private events. Get your very interesting high-impact person. Don't have them do a presentation. For this year, you pay them to sit down, do a roundtable conversation Q&A with only 30 people in the room.
Wow. Okay.
And really now we're going back to the secret meeting in the hotel 3 streets down. Right? But talk about something that is high value, high impact, who they want to hear from, who's in the room with them. That is an experience you will walk away from and remember in a sea of 3 days of craziness.
That's incredible. Elizabeth, this is why Exec Echo exists. Tell us again where they can reach you.
Yes, so exechecho.com. I am also very active on LinkedIn, so you can direct message me on LinkedIn. I look forward to meeting more people in the industry and hanging out with everybody who's out to both have a good time and change the world.
And I asked this question to you earlier before we get going. What is the one thing you're going to do this week that's going to change the world?
So the one thing I'm doing this week to change the world is rethinking what I share on LinkedIn from a view of, is it interesting to others just because it's interesting to me? And can I add value on a LinkedIn platform that is currently getting slammed with AI garbage?
Yes.
So
amazing.
I hope this meeting helps with that goal.
Thank you again, Elizabeth.
You're the best. Thank you so much.